Hi guys. Hey, it is good to get to be with you again here this morning, one more time before Christmas. And it is Christmas season, right? And I'm sure you guys know exactly how many days there are left until Christmas. And even in a very strange year, there's a lot about Christmas that is something to look forward to and be so glad for together, for time with your families and time remembering the birth of the Lord Jesus. Now, I'm supposed to tell you an Easter story at Christmas, and I don't completely understand why. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to do the beginning of the Gospel of John and the end of the Gospel of John, and we'll see if it doesn't all turn out tying up. So, at the very beginning of the Gospel of John, it says this, and these are words for Christmas, right? It says, the light was coming into the world. The light was coming into the world. This was the real light, the light that comes into the world and shines on all people. And who's the light? Who's the light? The light is the Lord Jesus, right? He was coming into the world. That means when he was born, it wasn't like you and me that when we were born at something new, that there was a time when I wasn't, right? And there was a time when you weren't. And then 52 years ago for me, I was born. But I didn't come in. I just started here, right? But Jesus came into the world. He had been with God from the very beginning, and not only was he with God, but he was God. It's very mysterious. But he came into the world, and he was the light, the real light that comes into the world and shines on all people. It goes on to say this about John the Baptist. It says, God sent his messenger, a man named John, who came to tell people about the light. He came to tell them so that all should hear the message and believe. And that's the very first time in the Gospel of John it talks about believing. And this is really the big theme of the whole book. The question is, Jesus has come into the world, the Son of God, to save sinners. And the question is, will you believe in him? Will you receive him? Will you put your trust in him? And it talks about how there were many who did not receive him, who didn't recognize him. Some, however, did receive him and believed in him. So he gave them the right to become God's children. And that's sort of the whole book, this drama about who will believe, who will receive him, and who won't. And it's such a huge, important question. And there's all kinds of back and forth, and as Jesus does some miracles in this book, it often will say things like, in this way he revealed himself, and people put their faith in him, they believed in him. And so all through the book there are stories of people coming to believe in Jesus, but also there are stories of people who refuse to believe, who are very stubborn, who won't listen to him. Even when they see miracles, they find ways of explaining them, and they won't believe. And this is the drama through the whole book. And then last time I talked to you, we talked about Easter morning. And I don't know how much you remember. There's the video if you want to go back and read it or watch it again. And if you remember, Mary Magdalene was at the tomb and saw that it was empty, and she ran and told Peter and John, and they came running to see what was happening. And it says that John went into the tomb and he saw and believed. He saw and believed. John, who had believed in Jesus earlier, now saw that Jesus was alive, that he had won, that everything was new, and he believed that Jesus was alive again and king. And so then that evening, Jesus comes and is with them in this room where they're locked in, they're scared, but Jesus comes and stands in the room in the middle of everybody, and he shows himself to them. He shows them his hands and feet, and they can see that he's alive, and they're just so glad, right? But that night, when they were together in the room, there was one of the disciples who wasn't there, and that was Thomas. Thomas wasn't there. He just happened to be somewhere else. We don't know where he was, but he wasn't there with the other rest of the group. And when he came back, everybody told him, of course, we saw the Lord. And they were all very excited, and they wanted to give Thomas the news, and they expected that Thomas would be happy. But Thomas had a hard time with it. It seemed so strange, and he was so sad and so disappointed and hurt by all that had gone on with the death of Jesus, that when they spoke that way, he just couldn't get his head around it. He didn't believe. He thought they were nuts or something. And so it says, Thomas said to them, "If I do not see the scars of the nails in his hands, and put my finger on those scars, and my hand in his side, I will not believe." I won't believe. He didn't want to believe just by hearing from somebody else. He said, no, I've got to see it with my own eyes. I've got to see that it's really Jesus. I've got to touch those holes in it, those holes in his hands. I've got to put my hand into his side where they put the spear. And so this must have been very strange, because that was on a Sunday night that Jesus had come, and I think Thomas might have just missed him by a short time. And then there was a whole week after that. And there were the 10 disciples, right? Not Thomas and not Judas, but the other 10 who all had seen Jesus alive and who believed. And the women who had seen Jesus and believed, Mary Magdalene, and others, the whole kind of community of people who heard the news. Some of them had seen him themselves, some of them had heard from other people, but they believed. But Thomas was part of this group, but he didn't believe. And Monday went by, Tuesday went by, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the whole week. Thomas had a cloud over his head, and everybody else was happy, and they wanted Thomas to understand, but he wasn't there. And Jesus did not come back and appear to them again that whole week. But on that following Sunday, everybody was together again, and this time Thomas was there too. And again, it says the doors were locked because they were still afraid that they might get arrested, that they would be in trouble because they were Jesus' followers. But it says Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." And he said it to everybody in the room, "Peace be with you," right? It's okay. I'm here. Don't be afraid. I'm alive. And then he turned, and who did he talk to? He spoke directly to one person in the room, and that was Thomas. And he said, "Thomas, here's my hand. Put your finger here. Look at my hands. And then stretch out your hand. Here, you can put it in my side where there's this big wound." He knew exactly what Thomas had said. He knew exactly where Thomas's heart was. And he loved Thomas, and he wanted Thomas to believe too. He came and he spoke right to him that way. He said, "Stop your doubting and believe." Well, Thomas, I'm not sure he actually even touched Jesus' hands. He knew it was the Lord. And he just said, "My Lord and my God, my Lord and my God." And then he believed, right? But Jesus responded to him. He said, "Do you believe because you see me? How happy are those who believe without seeing me?" Now, that's where we've been ever since. That the news about Jesus has gone from one person to another throughout the world. But almost all of the people who have believed in Jesus have not seen him alive. Right? I haven't ever seen him. Your mom, your dad, they've never seen the Lord Jesus. We've needed to believe without seeing. Now, are there good reasons to believe? There are. There are some very good reasons to believe. But this is the challenge, right? That Jesus comes to each of us and says, you know the stories, and knowing the stories is part of what helps us believe. But it's more than just knowing the stories. I want your heart. I want your heart. I want you to receive me into your life. I want you to let me be in your life and be your king. And I want you to believe, to trust in me, to put your whole weight on me and be ready to follow me wherever. And that's the same invitation that he gives us today. He gives us that invitation at Christmas, he gives it at Easter, and all the days in between. Right after the story about Thomas, it says one thing. John is wrapping up his book, and he says, Jesus did many other mighty works in his disciples' presence that they could see, which are not written down in this book. Okay, there's a lot more that I could have told you that I didn't write down. But he says, these have been written that you may believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that through this faith you may have life in his name. These things have been written so that you and I might believe, that we might know who Jesus is, and that in believing that we would have life. Happy Christmas, everybody. Hope you have a lovely time with your families, and I look forward to getting to see you later.